Fucking hell. Okay, I think that was empty. Hello. Hmm. Wait a second. Trying to find my old notes. I was just looking at them. Bro, why can't I find it? Oh, I found it. If you start your philosophy with man, you end up with man separated from everything in the universe. How do you know there's any connection between your thinking and what's outside of the mind? Welcome, neighbor.
Hi.
Hello. What would you like to say?
I would like to say that well I would well I think that I want to talk about basically I think that the third oh wait no well if you think about it, the third one is kind of, how do I say this? It's like it's not really like, basically, I guess I'm trying to get at that sort of, it's not, the third one, like, I disagree.
What's up? No degree. So what time are you debating tomorrow? I debate at 6:40 Central. Am I the first one? Is that when it starts? In one sense, metaphysics is prior to knowledge, since it would be the ontological structures of the world that determine whether knowledge is possible, how it is acquired, and under what conditions knowledge is obtained. However, the difficulty is that one has to know what metaphysics is correct in order to determine what epistemological account is correct. In other words, since metaphysics will determine epistemology, how and what we can know, we will have to know for, what does it say? Since metaphysics will determine epistemology, how and what we can know, we will have to know what the correct metaphysics is first. However, we cannot answer the first part without establishing a correct epistemology. Okay. Part without establishing a correct epistemology. Okay. We cannot establish a correct epistemology. The second part, we cannot establish the correct. The first part. We know that one contains infinity infinities within itself. We know that one presupposes the whole set of numbers. We know that one is necessary for any act of predication as a transcendental unity. We know that man must have access or a point of contact with these infinities. And here's the answer to how that happens. Numbers are therefore a transcendental argument for the necessity of God. If the referent for the symbol for infinity or the word infinity is not real or is merely a token linguistic symbol, then predication is impossible and so is knowledge. I have to have Greg Botson explain that one to me. Think about the number one. It seems simple, right? But packed inside it, it's the idea of all numbers. You can't even say one without assuming there's a whole system behind it. Two, three, four, infinity. One is like the tip of an iceberg. Beneath it is an entire ocean of math. Now, here's the big point. To say one equals one, to even talk about identity or logic, you're relying on something deeper, something unchanging and logic. You're relying on something deeper, something unchanging and infinite. You're using concepts that go beyond what you can touch or measure. You're standing on something transcendent, something that just can't come from matter or chance. So what are these? It's just a sound we make with no grounding. Then our logic, our math, our knowledge all collapses. Nothing means anything. I should say internal. I think I should say eternal maybe instead of infinite or necessary. But if the Christian worldview, these infinite truths are grounded in God. Could I say infinity emphasizes the unboundness, immateriality, and transcendence. Oh, like the transcendence. Oh, okay. Oh, I see what he's saying. Infinity transcends. God grounds infinity. So God does ground infinity because God is infinite. I don't think we. But does the Bible say God is infinite? Oh, someone's requesting. It's not. If you think this is rage bait, then the truth triggers you.
Yo, what's happening, boss?
Welcome, neighbor. What would you like to say?
I'm gonna start saying I am not an atheist, but I just don't agree with your first one where it says Christianity is objectively proven. And I'm gonna tell you now, I believe in God. I'm not an atheist, but like, what is your argument that Christianity in specific is like the spiritual truth? Like, how do you prove that objective? Because objective is a strong word.
So I would argue that to objectively prove something, you need to rely on standards of proof, and those standards are
Right.
either like arbitrarily invented by a human, or the standards are going to be revealed in the mind of God. And so, unless we have revealed standards from God's mind, all evidence would just be arbitrary because it's just humans making up standards. So, proof based
So
on
your logic is Christianity is proven because God says so.
No, I'm saying that Jesus is necessary for proof. We can prove things, therefore Jesus exists.
Why is Jesus necessary for proof?
I just told you, proof requires standards. So standards are either revealed by God and they're objective, or your standards are arbitrarily decided by a human. and that's the proof.
Yeah, but you saying they're revealed by God just basically means that it's true because God says so. But what if somebody like believes in Moloch and then Moloch says something is true? Like, why is Christianity the true religion? I'm not even an atheist. I just don't think that any.
Because only Jesus has the revealed perfect attribute set.
Ah, okay. So it's true because Jesus says so, and no other critical thinking or evidence or anything like that, just because Jesus says so.
I'm giving you the argument. It's not just because Jesus says so.
You just said that, though. I'm just repeating what you said.
My argument is saying that Jesus and his attribute set is necessary for like logic, science, morality, right? And you can't deny those things without being reduced to absurdity.
So you're saying Jesus's attribute set is required to tell the truth. You have to be Jesus to be able to tell the truth.
Jesus makes facts true, and if you deny, because Jesus says, "I am the truth," right?
Yeah, but how do you know Jesus wasn't just lying?
Because
What if he was just lying?
well, for one, that would be a straw man. That's in the Christian model of
You're
reality.
doing a steel man, which is also a logical fallacy.
I'm talking. No, it's not. You don't know what you're talking about. So my position.
Okay, buddy, sure. Okay.
I mean, you can laugh, but you're going to hell. And then
Okay,
you can
buddy.
laugh. You have all the time to laugh when you're going to hell. So just try to focus right now. So, or when you're burning in hell. So,
You know, hell isn't like a place you go to where there's like fire and brimstone. That's like something Dante Alighieri made up. Like, that's nowhere in the Bible does it describe hell as a place you go to. Hell just means separation from union with God. It doesn't mean you're going to incinerate and there's going to be little red demons running around poking you with spears. Like, it doesn't say that anywhere in the Bible.
yeah, well, I'm gonna be laughing when you're screaming in pain in hell. Okay.
But where in the Bible does it talk about hell being a place where you're tortured? Can you tell me where in the Bible it says that? Because it doesn't.
So you want to run away from the argument because you're a little man?
No, you're telling me I'm going to go to
man
hell
up
and burn.
You want to man up and face my argument, or you want to run away? You want to man up?
I face every point of your argument. You're just kind of like.
Are you gonna man up? Are you gonna run away?
I'm pretty manly, dude. You're just kind of like an
Okay,
insane.
well, I'm gonna make an argument. So unless the source of existence and truth, like logic, the source of logic and existence itself is a person that reveals himself in creation and in human history, we couldn't know the source of truth.
Dude, what you're saying literally makes no sense. I think you're a schizophrenic person.
Okay.
Like,
Well,
you're not even like debating.
You're
logic.
scared. You're scared. I get
You're
it.
just saying things that make no sense.
Okay.
Like, what you're saying like doesn't even have like a logical coherence to it. It's not even like an idea. You're just saying like random words.
You're saying your reasoning is self-validating. I'm saying Jesus is necessary to validate my
But
reasoning.
why is Jesus necessary to validate?
Because if you deny Jesus, now your reasoning is self-validating, which is arbitrary and circular.
Why is my reason for denying Jesus self-validating?
No, all of your reasoning. How do you know your reasoning is accurate? You just
I never claimed that it was, but how do you know that
Okay,
Jesus?
you can't deny that your reasoning is accurate.
Yeah, but why is Jesus? the one who's telling you
Because
the truth?
Jesus is the only possible thing that has the attributes to verify human reason.
What are those attributes?
He's revelatory. He's rational. He orders. He's the sustainer.
So there's no other people in human history that were revelatory.
No other
and
human
rational.
being in human
Plato
history.
was pretty rational and revelatory. I mean,
No other one in human history has the attributes to make truth real. Only Jesus has those attributes. No other
why? Just because you say so?
No, because he's God. So, anyways.
Oh, okay. So because he's God, because you say Jesus is God,
Here's the
then
thing.
it's true. So it's
kinda
basically just
Here's the
because
thing.
you say
Here's the
so.
thing, man.
What?
You're doing this bull in the china shop thing because
I'm embarrassing you on your own life is what I'm doing.
Okay, and you hate the truth, and you're
I
afraid.
love
of
the
my
truth.
argument.
I'm not an atheist.
But you're
I believe
afraid.
in God.
Okay, well, you're afraid of my argument. So, welcome, neighbor.
Just kick that guy out.
What?
You just kicked him. You just kicked him out. Like that was
What?
shocking.
Can you speak English?
You can't hear me.
Okay, what?
Can you hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
I said you kicked him out, and that was like pretty rude.
He was being uncooperative and belligerent. So I kicked him out. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I want to start with point three, actually,
Okay.
because slavery was in the Bible and stuff. So if you take the Bible as a source of proof in any way, then there was slavery in ancient Israel.
No. The laws of ancient Israel would forbid slavery, so that's not true.
It forbids slavery among Israelites. You can't enslave a fellow Israelite, but from surrounding countries, yes, you can.
Yeah, but the people from surrounding countries could just become Israelites, so that would defeat your argument.
That would mean they're Israelites. You can still take slaves from other countries and treat them like property.
when you take a slave from another country, that slave can become an Israelite, and then
No, they become property that you can
Stop.
pass down to your kids.
When you take a slave from another country, they can be grafted into the nation of Israel, and then they would be released on the year of Jubilee. So there's no issue there.
No.
Why not?
What do you mean? Why
mean,
not? You're taking a person
I take a
as
slave from another country to the nation of Israel. Then that slave gets grafted into the nation of Israel, and they're released on the year of Jubilee. What's the problem with that?
he's taking the slaves, the problem. What do you mean?
Okay, you're just. I mean, I don't know. What do I mean? What does anything mean? There is no. What does anything mean? There is no.
No, you cannot. You cannot do it. You're not allowed.
No,
Why would you do that?
no,
Cannot do it.
no,
On my authority, you cannot do it. That is funny.
I think that's the best way to deal with it when they do this shit. Just be like, well, the non-Hebrew could get grafted into the nation and released on the year of Jubilee. Done.
It is.
Done. So it's all voluntary.
Yeah.
Welcome, neighbor.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they? The question is, why don't you ask them why wouldn't they do it?
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Because if you ask them why, let's just think about that. So you want to be enslaved and be not property for the rest of your life. You want to be property for the rest of your life, or you convert and then get freed on the 7th year. I'm sorry, I'm going to choose early retirement every time. Look, are you calling them stupido?
Well, are you an adult, neighbor?
Yeah, I'm 42.
Awesome.
Are
Very
you
good.
sure?
Yeah, 42,
You sound
1983.
you sound 20. Oh, that's a wow. Okay, don't make me feel old. I'm 50. I'm 72.
I don't think that's old. I actually work with old people, and they're some of the youngest folks I know. But
No, I'm 52 because I was born in 72. So that's what I mean. I'm not 72.
oh, okay. I was like, you sound great for 72.
Well, 83 and 72 were close
He
enough. I
looks-
thought you'd pick up on the context.
He looks 70.
No, not really. Sorry.
72. You're like
Because I
42.
said I was 42,
Mars.
and then I was like in 1983, and so I don't read minds.
That's okay. Well, I just thought it would be contextual. Speaking
mean,
of which,
yeah,
are you an atheist?
I am not a Christian. I don't know that I would call myself an atheist or agnostic. I think that
Well, let's create a
there's little bit of
vacuum that there's
divinity
only
in
one
everybody.
God, and if you don't believe in that God, you'd be an atheist. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Then I'm an atheist. I do not believe
Okay.
in the Christian God, and if he is real, I believe that he's a complete dick.
Well, his country sounds like Israel, so he is real. See how it rhymes?
So I just wanted to check and make sure, because it sounded like you guys were cool with this scenario that I'd like to lay out for you. Because my deity says that I can go to your house and take you, and as long as you convert to my religion in 7 years of after you've worked as a slave for me for 7 years, then I'll let you go. As long as you swear you believe in my deity. That's okay. That's cool with you guys?
Wait, you know what
You're
you
down
should
with
do?
that?
You should do. Wait, change the scenario to this. If you become a Christian,
No, I
you
like
live.
my scenario,
If you
and I want
no,
to
no.
answer
It's the
to
same
mine.
scenario.
Okay,
It's
if
the
you
same
become-
scenario.
if you become
Wait.
my
It's the same
religion-
scenario. It's the same scenario. If you become a Christian, you'll even though you die, you will never live. Or you never die. If you don't become a Christian, then you die and go to hell. So, do you see the two parallels?
No, I really would like an answer to my question. Like, is it okay if my God says that I'm allowed to come and make you a slave for 7 years as long
So
as you convert to
It's
my
just like
religion
the
and set you
Israelite
free?
one, right?
You're cool
can
with
I
it.
answer this?
It's just like the Israelite. They can choose to be enslaved forever as a slave, or they can choose. Yeah, go
But
ahead.
you're okay with being a slave, though, right? Like, as long as someone's religion says that it's cool to
Okay,
make you a
this is
slave
not-
until you convert.
This is not slavery. This is not slavery. This is like debtor prison. This is like
Yeah, this is a servitude.
this is like when you take
So what do you? So
when you take
if you owe me
God.
something, I can make.
fallacy. So the word slave can refer to many different concepts. So the
No,
concept.
I'm just putting the shoe
Can
on
I-
the other
can I
foot.
explain what's
want
going
to
on?
know if
This
you.
is
I
a-
would like my
listen,
question answered. You
listen,
guys are trying
I'm
to change
trying
my
to
question.
answer your question. You don't understand you don't understand the socioeconomic institution in
I
Israel.
don't understand.
Do you
I
understand
don't
the
understand.
socioeconomic institution that you're referring to that the question is about? Do you even understand it? I'm trying to explain it to you.
Yeah, actually, I.
Question is about. Do you even understand it? I'm trying to explain it to you.
Yeah, actually, I do. You don't have
don't
any
think you
idea what
do.
my history or
I don't think you
background with
do.
the Bible or Christianity
Ma'am,
is.
What
Ma'am,
archaeological
ma'am,
papers have you
Ma'am,
read?
ma'am, I've
In
read,
Sanskrit or
ma'am,
Greek?
ma'am, I've studied this matter. Okay, I can refer you to.
Listen to him.
I was raised on this matter.
I am
was
not
raised
interested in
to
that. I can refer you to a paper. by
this
Pete-
matter. I bet you
Ma'am,
that I have
ma'am.
actual copies of the Sanskrit scrolls
God,
and can read them because I was
Ma'am.
raised to do that.
ma'am, this is a socioeconomic institution for structuring their society. In their culture, they didn't have prison and they didn't have like bank loans, right? They also didn't have things like
They
welfare.
actually
Ma'am.
did. They actually
Please
did.
be
Ma'am,
quiet, Bug.
Ma'am, I'm sorry.
They did too.
I'm
Ma'am,
sorry,
your
but you're not,
information is correct,
ma'am. You're not letting me
Ma'am,
talk.
your information is incorrect.
My information is not correct. I can refer you to Dr. Peter J. Williams on the issue. You are grossly misinformed. I can also refer you to sociologist Jacques Illot. You are grossly misinformed on this matter. You are immature. You are uncooperative, and you are going to fucking hell.
You're
Goodbye.
gonna drop.
Goodbye. Bye-bye. Welcome to James Bond
I'm tired of these people.
Agency.
I'm tired of these people acting like they're scholars. She probably watched like a Josh Bowen interview, and that's it.
Yeah, she was raised on.
And right now, I'm touching the stone.
I was raised on this issue. I was raised on this issue. So wait, you were raised as a slave? What do you mean?
She just watched Josh Bowen or something. She's just parodying Josh Bowen, I'm sure.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, she wouldn't even let me talk. Like all that's going on there is like some Judge Judy. Like I take you to court, and you're in debt, and then you have to pay the debt, and then their laws showed compassion where they had like a limit on the debt. The point of the year of Jubilee is there's a limit on how much debt you could be in. So that's compassion. Yeah. They didn't want this like in other societies. They didn't have the values of like in God. They had people put in perpetual debt, and you could never get out of your debt, and you'd work for the rest of your life.
That sounds like America, the school debt.
Yes.
America.
I think
we should have
loans have become ridiculous. Student loans have become a type of indentured servitude. It's actually insane.
It is indentured servitude. You should put up a new.
What is college? What is college?
I think
all college does is apparently train you to be one of these. I can't even say the word. I don't know. I don't know what the TikTok friendly word is either. But they're training all the college here. I'll say it like this: the colleges. You pay all this money to go to college, and then you just get brainwashed to hate America.
That's what it is.
So, like, what the hell is the point of that?
Well, that's the thing. Like Charlie Kirk, I love Charlie Kirk. I don't know if you have any opinion on him, but I love him because he goes, unless you're going for like a doctorate or like you're going for like,
You should just go to
he
trade.
says,
Just learn a trade.
go to trade school. My son's going to electrician. He's going to make $40 an hour. And guess what? They're paying for his schooling, so they don't have to actually have a school debt. And so he's going to be able to make 40 freaking dollars an hour and then
You only
up
have
to
to go to
$50
school.
an hour.
You only have to go to school for like 2 years. You don't have to sit around for like 4 years wasting money. And then like
Well, it is 4 years of schooling, but it's like this. You go to work for 4 weeks, you go to school for 5 days. And then it's apprenticeship, so it's a 4-year program.
okay.
And so when you get done, by the time you get to journeyman's wage, you're making $50 an hour,
Yeah.
and you're getting paid to go to. You're not getting paid to go to school, but you are getting like all that. So that's the crazy part.
Yeah, I don't know why anyone goes to university nowadays.
And universities do not teach anything but
Even when I
like
went to school in 2001.
anti-Christianity.
I dropped out because I don't know. I thought college was kind of a joke. But
It is. You got 300 people in a classroom that says, "This is when I went to psychology, and I took psychology 3 times because I hated it because I was a brand new Christian."
it felt
And I was
like
like,
it felt like it's just like high school, but you got more responsibility. And I never thought
"Yeah,
I never felt like public education was like a valuable use of time. I think it's just like some, some like, I don't have a good opinion on education. I think, they teach you all this crap about evolution. They never teach you about creationism. So that's not critical.
no,
That's not critical thinking. That's indoctrination. And so if they're
yeah."
indoctrinating you into evolution, what else are they indoctrinating you into? The whole thing.
Well,
Is,
and it was widely known as humanism and secularism, and that was acceptable. But anything outside of humanism and secularism is is indoctrination. It's biased opinion. It's not factual. You can't have it. I think school is a scam. College is a scam.
Bertrand Russell talks about it. And
What's up, Mr. Morris?
welcome, neighbor.
So I've over the past couple days while I've been working, I've listened to a couple of hours of content on the transcendental argument, and I have a couple questions for you.
Okay, great.
It's very intriguing. I had never like heard of this. I've only heard of like the empirical type, like physical evidence type of arguments for and against God, but
Evidentiary is what you'd say.
Yes.
Evidence.
right. And but it appears that most of the people who are like all about this tag argument say that those arguments, they kind of concede that those arguments aren't the best place to start, or at least, or like that's what I've heard from a few
It's
different.
not that they're bad. It's just they don't
Well,
have.
I would put it like this: so God isn't just like a normal fact, because God is the type of fact that makes other facts true.
Right.
He's kind of like a different category. He's more like a system of truth rather than just like one fact of the universe. So you have to argue him as like a whole system of truth, not as just like another normal fact, because he makes facts true. That's the way I think of it.
Right. Yeah. That checks out with some of the stuff I recall from what I listened. So one of the guys who I watched like a 45-minute like video essay of him explaining some of the principles of the argument, and like he was kind of like in the camp that I think you're in with this argument, where like I guess plainly, like I hear it as like a good argument for like a vague sort of idea for a god, but I don't see how it directly applies to like Christian.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite. It can't be an argument for a vague God. The whole idea is that the argument comes from the Bible, and that the Bible is like, as the divine authority, word of God, is our starting point. And from the claims of the Bible, we get like basically what we call a worldview or a model of reality that comes from the Bible.
Yeah.
or my friend Parakeet, he likes to call it a framework. So everyone operates where they interpret reality based on a framework.
Right. Okay.
We're saying that only if your framework is revealed by God could you like have any guarantees that you're interpreting reality correctly, because any other framework is just going to come from a human mind. So it has to be like revealed in human history and like in the person of Jesus. Jesus is like Jesus. It's like God comes down to us rather than us reaching up to God. So we're saying that we have to submit to God, just like giving us knowledge, and just have to accept that as His truth. Because any attempt to deny that revelation would entail a contradiction. So
Okay. Like, okay. So correct me if I misunderstood what I thought I heard in these like videos. So like, because like the premise is like, if you believe like the transcendentals being like some of them like logic, language understanding, number theory, like these are pretty much just like axioms for reality. They're, like there's probably a better term, or, like, priori, I think is the term a lot of the people were using. Like just like things you have to like assume are true.
I don't. Hey Tab, you're kind of nice.
What was
Um.
that?
Oh, my friend Tab, I muted him because he's ruffling chips or something.
Oh yeah.
They're well, I don't like to call them axioms,
Okay.
but I could see where like some people would say that. It, I call them like the technical term is metaphysical assumptions. They're
Okay.
basically like your basic starting point beliefs that you use to evaluate the world. It's like beliefs about, is the world physical, or like some people think the world is like we're all in a dream, like the Matrix or something.
Right.
So that would be like one of your metaphysical assumptions, because science can't prove if the external world is like a physical or a mental substance. That's
Right.
part of the whole simulation. So that's your metaphysical assumptions, are these things that we have to. Like, sorry, my cats don't like atheism. These things that we have to assume are true, like prior to even looking at the world, is it's the lens through which you interpret reality.
Right. So it's like real, like, to like the layman, we're to like someone who like doesn't know anything about philosophy, which is like basically me, like that's like, to me it's like really breaking down like being super like cynical or secular, like in just like, not accepting anything as face value, and you have to like justify every belief you have, like kind of, you know what I mean? Where like, because everyone, just like I feel like it's like the default that people just like accept that reality is real unless you like actually think about it, and like the only way, like you have to actually like justify these things.
But we can never like escape our bias. Like, it's obvious that depending on where you're born, like if you're born in China versus if you're born in America, you're gonna have like a different type of person based on cultural biases
Mm-hmm.
that shape how we are. And beyond cultural biases, there's like just the fact that you're a human being is a type of bias, because you interpret reality as a human being interprets reality. That creates another type of bias. So we never really get access to reality as it is, as it actually is, and we're kind of in the dark. And that's why we say the argument is saying that we need like the source of reality. We call it ultimate reality. The source of existence and truth has to be like a person that talks to us, or otherwise we can't know it. Because human logic we can't logic our way to the source of existence, and we can't science our way to the source of existence. So we're kind of we'd be forever in the dark with only like partial knowledge, and it's like we could discover new knowledge tomorrow that undermines everything. So you have no like stability in anything you think is true. But if Christianity is true and Jesus is the truth, we have sort of a bedrock foundation from which we can build further truth upon. And like, so it makes like science coherent, it makes philosophy possible, and all these things.
Okay, so like,
Can I
yeah,
can
go
I
on.
speak real quick? So this is just AI, but it says in philosophy the tag argument, especially the transcendental argument for the existence of God, it's a type of argument that attempts to prove the existence of God by arguing that certain necessary conditions for experience, knowledge, or even the possibility of truth itself requires God's existence.
Hmm.
Then it says down below, it says, and this is the highlights, I'm only reading the highlights. The transcendental argument is the argument that attempts to prove the existence of God by appealing to the necessary conditions for the possibility, experience, and knowledge. So it would be, I've often heard someone said this, it's the impossibility to the contrary. So, like, if it's just you and I talking back and forth, it's just going to be you saying what you say is true, and I say what I say is true.
Right.
How are we going to know what is real and what is not? If God is the arbiter, or God is the actual necessary precondition to tell us what is true, then you have to reveal that truth to us. If you read in Romans, where the Bible is tying it back to Christianity, God says that all that can be known about God is made known to him, right? Or made known to us because he's made it known to us directly. Then it tells you that the world is indicative of God's eternal power, his divine
It doesn't say
creation.
all that is known about. We
All that can be known is made known about God.
It's just saying God is obvious. When we look at the world, God is obvious.
Yeah, he's made it evident to us. He's placed his reason and morality in us, and then he's made the world, his divine attributes, eternal power, and divine glory have been made known since creation. And so you're without defense when you look at the world. It shows design and intentionality, right? So
There's order.
I think that would be, yeah, there's order. And so
Right. So
then
can't
it
be
goes
just
on to,
matter and motion and entropy, because there is like systems, you know, there is order to these like transcendental, like these non-material things that we all just like experience, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
like-
They can't be explained by like human minds, and it can't be explained by anything in the physical universe. Like math is one of them, logic.
right.
But I'll tell you, like, I am impressed that you try to like research the argument, because most people just don't even take the time to do that. So that's
Yeah,
like,
no, I'm gonna keep looking into it because it's really interesting. Like you know, it combines. Like, I feel like I need to do more research on just like metaphysical philosophy alone and like ethical philosophy alone to like really get like, a full grasp of this whole argument. But still, I'm still kind of lost. So like,
it can go deep into the weeds, or you can actually make it really simple. You know, it can kind of go both. So yeah.
but where I'm still kind of hung up because I'm like, so, you know, from what I was hearing in like some of these different videos or people explaining the argument or debating it or whatever, like, so the way I was understanding it was like, you know, these things that you said, like, can't just like the orders, I mean, I forgot the term you liked to use for them, like the assumptions, metaphysical assumptions.
Yeah,
These things, you know, have to have like, you know, like a divine intelligent source, like you're saying, like the, you know, God's mind, or like it has to be like XYZ. But like, so
yeah.
why couldn't it be like, so like I'm cool with being like, you know, because like before this, I would have like fully, you know, I had no problems calling myself an atheist, but more so of like but probably more of an agnostic. Like, I haven't really been convinced of a God, but like I don't like go around claiming like I know for a fact there is no God type thing. But after listening to this argument, I'm kind of like, okay, like, sure, I can accept that like there's this kind of God, like a God that, you know, gives us the ability of like logic and reason, and the God that created numbers and language and meaning, and like this God that seems to be described through this argument. Like, I don't have a problem with that, with like, you know, believing that God in that sense exists. But I'm still like, it seems like the one YouTube video I saw where somebody related it to like Orthodox Christianity was how he was relating it, or like how he chose to view it. And all he basically said was like Orthodox Christianity like matches up with the tag argument, with all the requirements of the argument the best. But like, but to me, that's not like sufficient enough reason to like definitively say that Orthodox Christianity then must be true. Like, it kind of felt like something like string theory explains relativity and quantum mechanics So it must
I
be
would
true.
not. I would obviously.
Definitely need to do that.
I'm not Orthodox, so obviously I don't agree with that. I think
Oh, okay.
the way I look at the argument and is that like the argument proves the truth statements of the Bible, and then I say I'm a Bible. I don't. To me, Christianity isn't an institution. Christianity is a person, Jesus,
Okay, yeah.
and it's about the true statements of the Bible. To me, it's not about Eastern Orthodox and like Catholic type. They can focus more on the institution than like the Bible and the person. And I want to focus more on the Bible and the person. And so I look at it as like I'm proving the true statements of the Bible. But I think we're talking about Jay Dyer, and he tries to argue that due to the essence energy distinction in Eastern Orthodox, that solves some problem. And I don't know. I think
That is one of the guys I listen to. But you're saying, so when he says Orthodox Christianity, he is referring to Eastern Orthodox? Like, is that?
he's an Eastern Orthodox Christian,
I
but
kind of assumed because he didn't say Eastern specifically. Like, I assumed like Orthodox Christianity, like he was just trying to be like.
There's a bunch of Orthodox. There's like Greek Orthodox. There's Oriental Orthodox. I think. I'm not sure all of them, but
Yeah, when he said it, I kind of took it as he was like trying to like he was claiming to believe in like the most pure form of Christianity, like what the apostles believe, or like whatever.
When people talk like that, I run for the hills. I don't think anyone has the most pure. I mean, obviously we try to. I think the goal should be to be closest to Jesus as possible and how they originally did things. That would be the ideal. But it's like,
Right.
I don't know how you claim that you're the one. You have the secret sauce because there's a lot of like history and church fathers and institutions that kind of murky the water. Like even within their own tradition, church fathers disagree and
At the same time, wouldn't everyone kind of somewhat like casually claim that they have the secret sauce? Like Mormons think they're more right than everyone else, and like Southern Baptists probably think they're more right than everyone else.
I think what we should do, we always point to the person. Like it's not about like me or whatever. Like church, I'm part of the institution of the church. It's about like Jesus, the person, and like what does the Bible say?
Right.
So I go to the Bible. I take the Bible to be the ultimate authority, and what Jay Dyer is doing is kind of playing with like, is the Bible the authority or is the church the authority, kind of thing.
Okay, got you. Yeah. So Jay,
to me, the point of like the Bible is to question human authority, not like use it to validate some human authority, because humans are always like, we misuse power.
right? Like we're flawed, and God is.
We're in a broken world.
So that's interesting. So like when you believe like the Bible is like the ultimate authority, and that it explains, or that the tag argument you said like validates the truth claims of the Bible, something like that.
Yes, I would argue. Yeah. The argument literally comes from Romans 1. So the argument comes from the Bible as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't see that reference in anything I've read yet, but that's interesting. You said Romans 1. I'll look into that. For sure.
Yeah, it's like it starts in around verse 20, I think. I'm saying off the top of my head. So around, midway through Romans 1, it lays out the argument.
Okay, interesting. So like I'm curious, just like you personally, so do you like believe everything in the Bible like literally?
Yeah, so like
the things that come to mind to me are like
obviously
the Noah's Ark and the flood and like stuff like Old Testament stuff.
Well, yeah, I believe in like the flood and the Genesis story is literal, but obviously there's things like parables aren't literal, and the Psalms are songs, so I would say Psalms aren't literal.
Although those are more poetic.
Yeah, but they might contain, even like a parable would contain like a truth about God or something, right? Like a principle. There'd be
right, yeah, like there still can be wisdom in fictional aspects, or
So yeah, because it's like 66 books. Some of the books are poetic, some of them are historical.
Right.
So it depends on the you have to judge it by context, grammar, and
right.
What's the other one? Context, grammar, and reason, I guess.
Sure. So like I'm curious, like did you because like so something to me, so like someone who's like really like hardcore studied the Bible and like learned Hebrew or Greek and like stuff like this, like because I'm always thinking like what do we allow, like, so someone like you who's like, supports the truth claims in the Bible, believes most of the Bible, literally, like the actual historical accounts or whatnot, like, do you account for like is there like mistranslation potential over
Nope.
like the generations or anything? Or do we like
Nope.
what's your thought on that? I'm just curious.
Nope.
We actually have like tons of manuscripts. Like the Bible is one like super verified. I would say it's like 98% verified.
Okay, so like most most like Christians,
So
like,
wait,
Protestants,
do you know
Yeah.
the study of the Bible, like when it was written?
No, what do you mean?
So the way I've heard it, this is a really good analogy.
Uh-huh.
First of all, the Bible was written in the year 1445 BC to 70 AD with
Okay.
66 books, 3 different languages, 3 different continents, and 40 plus authors of people who didn't necessarily know each other.
Right.
So the way you want to look at it is you want to look at it this way, that it's not that the people are infallible. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
So the way it works is the argument goes this, that God is infallible, who
Right.
chose to write through infallible people, but he's not somehow held back by their fallibleness. He inspired it through the book, and he wrote it down through there, and is God breathed. So the authority of the Bible comes from God himself. Now, when it comes through God himself, he is able to oversee sovereignly people's mistakes and people's errors. So, give an example. So, the Bible has over 400,000 copyist errors.
Okay.
Of the 5,000 translations of the New Testament and the Old Testament, and the reason why we know they're what they call copyist errors is because other copies that have been written down of the same book don't have those errors in there.
And we're the when they if you notice there's footnotes in a lot of Bible where they're transparent. Well, they'll say like there's the famous one in Mark about the snakes,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll say like this was added into their manuscripts. So we have so many manuscripts we can like point out these errors. And we're honest about the errors, but there's none of the errors are inconsistent. Like what,
Yeah, they're not.
nothing
They're
that's-
in. They're not inerrant. It's inerrant.
Yeah, they're
So
like
there's no errors
like,
in the
it's
Bible.
mostly like typos and stuff like that. There's nothing like
Yes.
inconsistent with the overall gospel message at all.
Okay, gotcha.
Not only that, but through church history, the Bible was passed around as individual books to each other, and then consolidated. But it doesn't mean that they didn't exist earlier and passed around to different churches and be rewritten and recopied. So when they go to put it together as one Bible and 66 books, it wasn't that they didn't have the books around prior to the year 300. They were being written between 33 AD to 70 AD to up to 90 AD in the Old Testament, with the last book being written by John, because he was the one who wasn't the only one of the disciples who survived that was tried to be boiled alive, but didn't. He lived out his days until he was 90 years old and passed away in island of Patmos. Then we have John's
Actually,
disciples. I think it's
I have a
Irenaeus or something.
I have a book on how the canon was put together, but I haven't read it yet, so I don't know. No,
Yeah,
but-
you should look at that. It's really good. I wonder if you'd give me more information.
Well, sorry, what was that last thing you said I should look at? I got a call and I missed some of it. So.
I don't. We were just talking about the canon. I had written. I have a book.
He's got a book.
Oh,
that
okay.
was put together, but I haven't read it yet, so I don't really. I'm not super knowledgeable on the subject.
Okay, gotcha. So real quick, because I have to go. So like you're saying, so like, does anyone try to make the tag argument from like a deistic point, or just like a? Does anyone or you? Is it safe to assume that people who make the tag argument are like always arguing that like
Christian?
Christianity,
Yeah.
or do some people use it more vaguely? Like,
No,
am I?
it's always going to be for the God of the Bible, the Christian Bible. You couldn't make the argument work for the Quran or for the Torah or for any other.
Right, but could you make it work for a God that like no one's really like
No,
believed or worshipped yet?
because the God revealing Himself in creation and human history is like really important because that's like like the history of the church and the Bible is like tangible. It's not-
Right. So then that's like that. That's okay, and that like demonstrates that. Like, the thing
If
that,
you're
you know,
God, think about this. If God designs a universe where God intends that like nobody knows God, like he wants to be hidden from
uh-huh.
the universe couldn't know God, right?
Right.
The only way we can know God is He has to take the initiative to reveal Himself to us, and so that's the type of God that narrows it down to like Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, and then we go further into why like we go from theology, we get to a further debate about why it's Christianity, not those other ones.
Okay, interesting. I'll keep watching vids and I'll go read through Romans. I'll bust out,
Yeah, Romans
off my
1,
Bible, and then
18 specifically through 2:15 tells you why atheists exist.
oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. You said Romans 1 starts at
It kind of tells you that when you rebel against God, you turn to worship the world, and
Right.
science has become kind of a worship of the world. Like we think that we can just control nature, and nature will save us. Like scientists will cure cancer and fix all the problems and all this stuff, but that's not true.
Okay, yeah. I definitely have some more stuff to look into, but then I'll come back if I have more questions.
Right on, man. I appreciate you,
Thanks, guys.
and I'm really impressed. You're a critical thinker for actually like attempting to learn the argument. Like 99% of people don't do that, so that's rare. So
Yeah, like I
it is.
heard you talk about it once, and I didn't. You were talking about it with someone who was kind of like being rude, and I think like like I didn't get the full gist of it in that conversation because there were some emotions flying around, but I was still intrigued to go look at it, and once I did, I didn't.
yeah,
I,
sometimes
I
I get
like
a
to prove
little.
myself wrong because that makes me feel like I'm closer to being right. You know what I mean?
I can get a little frustrated sometimes because people are so they're more about winning than like learning and having a conversation. So
No doubt about it. All right, guys, I got to bounce for real, but
yeah,
another time.
thanks, man. Bye.
You know what's funny we could do?
Another
We could create a
satisfied
background.
another satisfied customer. No, I'm just kidding.
That's right. You know what we could do? I want to do a background that says atheist. Emotional damage.
I should get that clip. Why have I not clipped that yet?
Yo,
Welcome.
yo, no slavery in ancient Israel? That's false.
It's not false.
False. Yes, it is.
Because
I mean,
slavery would be like a sociological institution.
still slavery. Still slavery. It was like you
Yeah.
could make that same look. You could make that same argument for Heian Japan or Athens in the archaic age. It was still slavery, though.
Read it up here, buddy. Read it. Read it up here.
This is a book.
Whoa,
This is an academic
summarize. I'm
book.
not reading all that.
Yeah, I'll read it. It's an academic book. I have it highlighted because people don't believe me that I read and stuff. So it's the book's The Technological Society by Jacques Ellul, and the author's a sociologist and he's familiar with history too. He's also familiar with the Bible, and he says,
Are you familiar with history, by the way? I'm just asking. Like just general world history.
I just defer to like books I read about it. I'm not an expert on history, or I don't really argue history. But he says in this book that there was in fact greater technical progress in civilizations where slavery was prevalent, for example, Egypt, than in others where the institution was practically unknown, for example, Israel. So the institution of slavery was practically unknown in Israel, right? Like it'd be in rare instances of like there would be like a war if you were in a what is it called? Now I lost the word. A prisoner of war. If you're a prisoner of war, that would be like the only instance of like slavery.
Bond servant. So, but you do so practically unknown. So, I mean, we both
Yeah.
agree that there were bond servants and there were indentured.
No, it was only like
servants.
if you're like a prisoner of war, then you would be.
But like in general, like lifelong bond servants, like are we? And even a prisoner of war. Let's just say and then they would put them in slavery, like, bond servitude.
Well, yeah,
Like that's considered slavery, like by definition,
yeah,
correct?
but we have that in our society, like criminals and people who are like a threat to society. We lock them up in prison, right? So obviously,
But different rules is different rules. So I'm not trying to
it's
say
slavery according to the
Israel is like antebellum slavery from
No,
America.
that according to the
Okay.
Constitution, the people in prison are slaves.
What's up? I say
According to the Constitution of the greatest country on the world, the people in prison are slaves.
Oh my God. Let's talk about ancient Israel. That's like going off on a tangent.
I'm
Anyway,
not going off on a tangent. I'm
are
saying
you
it's
would you
reasonable?
argue
It's
that
reasonable.
Athens?
It's reasonable
Okay.
if you commit a crime and you're violent and you're a danger to society. It's reasonable
But
to enslave that person. Would you not agree?
it's completely different from bond servitude, indentured servitude.
Are
These
you
are
listening to
completely
what I'm
different
saying?
things, and we could both agree on that. So, would you say that
Are you
Athens,
listening to
the
me?
indentured servitude in Athens, wasn't slavery?
Do you
When
think?
Solon said it was slavery,
Look, all that's going. This is just their society's version of prison, or like if you're in debt,
but
or
it's by definition slavery. You get what I mean? You would also
you know
have
what
to
you're
make
doing is a
you would
word.
also have to make that
No,
argument, like I
you-
said, for
it's
Athens in
okay.
the archaic
What you're
age.
doing is an intentional dishonest use of language because
Okay.
the word slave can refer to more than one concept, right?
Yes, bond servitude, indentured servitude.
So
I'm saying so Athens
this isn't
has
this isn't
indentured
anything
servitude
evil.
in the archaic age, right? Would
This
you
is
say that Athens, right, did not have slavery, and like archaic
oh
age
my
Greece,
god, what
they
are we
didn't have
talking about?
slavery?
I don't know. I haven't studied those.
Well,
As
you,
far
you're
as I
making that
know, as
argument.
far
You're
as I
making that.
know, like Plato and the pagan philosophers thought that slavery was like the natural state of man.
Yeah, and other freaking Greek
So, and
philosophers thought it was
the
like
idea,
absolutely horrendous. Other, like popular Greek philosophers, by the way.
I'm pretty sure that
Zeno. Zeno.
Jeez, man, what?
I said like popular Greek philosophers thought the opposite way. They thought it was absolutely horrendous. Like Zeno, for example. Pythagoras, like guys like that. You know what I mean? So you can't just appeal to certain philosophers and not appeal to the others. You know what I mean?
Okay, but it's because
So
of
why aren't you sticking to the topic that says there's no
I
slavery
know.
in
I'm
ancient
just
Israel?
saying.
Why are you
I'm
bringing
just saying.
in
If you say
other?
there's
Why are you bringing
no
in
slavery in
surrounding
ancient Israel, you
nations?
have to say there's no
Why are you
slavery in
bring Fritz?
Athens, ancient
Fritz,
Japan,
you're going on the
ancient
Fritz,
Egypt
dude.
in
You're
the
going on the
Old Kingdom.
Fritz.
Go
You're
ahead.
on the Fritz. You're on the Fritz, aren't you?
I'm just
Listen,
saying. He's
listen,
trying to say it's
listen,
indentured servitude and all that.
listen,
I'm saying by definition it's still a form
listen,
of slavery. It's
listen.
still
Stick
slavery
to
by
the
definition.
topic.
Now you could go ahead.
Stick to the topic.
no, but I'm
No
trying to.
slavery in ancient Israel.
The whole point is that there's so-called deconstruction atheists who say that like they try to act like what's going on in Leviticus 25 is the same as like in the antebellum South, and that's
But
a
no,
lie.
I brought up that point. If you were listening, I brought up that point. Trick those guys. Trick the atheists, whatever. I'm an atheist as well, but trick the new atheists, right? I'm asking you, was there slavery, even indentured servitude in ancient Israel? Because indentured servitude is slavery. Solon said it in Greece. If you want to appeal to like philosophers, Zeno said it, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
is
what
there
I do.
slavery
I
in
just,
ancient
I just,
Israel?
yeah, dude. I just literally showed you a quote from a book by a sociologist. Slavery would be a sociological issue, right?
But
So I
it
just
wasn't. It wasn't
defended my
ancient Israel, right?
position, dude. I literally academically defended my position. You're just being obstinate. I don't know why they do this, dude.
The guy was on the suppression of the truth, Fritzy. Is this a suppression
I
person?
literally showed my source.
Yeah.
That's not my only source either. There's lots of sources I can appeal to.
Yep. Where's his sources? By what standard? Remember this phrase always. By what standard is he making those judgments? Sorry, you gave that to me the other day. I was just teasing.
By what standard? That's what Bronson says.
I know. You told me, remember this phrase always.
Bro, I never like said
By
you
what
were like
standard?
wrong about the sources. I said like just defend it. You know what I mean? Like stand on your beliefs. You said there's no slavery in ancient Israel. I'm making the argument that indentured servitude is slavery. So by like, can you agree with that? Or even bond servitude, was that slavery? Yes or no?
Okay, but you're not. My position.
Look, you don't want to answer. You don't want to answer. Yes or
Because
no?
you're not
Answer a
fra-
question, dude.
You're not. You're misframing. I told you you're using. This is intentional, dishonest use of
Dude,
language.
there's a
Stop
conversation
talking.
between me and you. I'm not trying to prove
It's
you
my
wrong.
turn to
Answer my question,
respond.
yes or no.
It's my turn to respond.
You're
are
not
doing-
responding to me.
because what you're doing is a word concept fallacy.
You're a 50-year-old faggot who can't stand on his ground. I'm sorry. You're just a little faggot. You're going to hell, faggot. Kill yourself, please. Jump off a cliff. You're a
The mask comes off. And this is atheism. He said he was an atheist, by the way. So
What's up, dudes? How are you? Geez, that last guy, it really shows, doesn't it? Whenever they're losing the argument, real demons come out.
yeah, pretty much. He wanted to be
Yeah.
like super pedantic about language. It's like, bro, come on. Like you
Yeah.
share
It's always semantics whenever you go down to
Every
the
time.
fundamental questions.
How do you define blah blah blah?
I know,
Every time.
crazy. I just have a question. I agree with all of your points, but I would just like to hear your argument for objectively proven. You know what you say. I agree, but I would just like to hear how you frame it.
Well, I do the transcendental argument for God, which is like the idea is that
Beauty, truth, and
like God is necessary for facts. So because God makes facts true, we have to prove him transcendentally, which means like we're proving him a system of truth. So it's kind of like Jesus is like the revealed source of existence and truth as a person. And if you're saying like the source of existence and truth isn't a person, then like how would you ever know what is, like, you want to talk about reality, but like what makes anything real? Because you don't even,
yes, exactly.
you're denying the thing that makes everything real. You're denying, you want to use logic, but you're denying the source of logic.
Yeah, there has to be a necessary being.
I
for
think
con-
they already believe in Jesus. It's just a matter of me like making them aware that they're just suppressing the truth, and Jesus is obvious, and they're already assuming him every time they reason, every time they do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Any atheistic argument is always framed in religious context. Anytime that they try to say that, well, this is true, what ground do you stand upon when you say this is true? You know, if you deny the existence of truth.
Right. Like if the Bible doesn't speak with divine authority, then what authority would you appeal to? It's like your opinion. So
Yeah.
you can't, because the Bible speaks authoritatively. Like you might reject it. Maybe, okay, so you don't believe Jesus is the creator that's revealed himself. Okay. Well, so what's your source of logic? What's your source of existence?
Yeah.
And they have nothing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was an atheist for 15 years, you know, just a militant atheist where I was, you know, completely arrogant, did no research, did no critical thinking or analysis, and just, you know, thought my beliefs were better, and us in the 21st century knew better than these sheep farmers, or, you know, all the rhetoric, and that it was opium for the masses, and all the very easy, shallow ways you can look at it if you try to, you know, I grew up in a culturally Catholic household. So, you know, we went to mass, but nobody actually listened to anything, you know. And that's a problem with Ireland currently. They claim it's a Christian country, but it's more secular, like society these days.
oh
That's-
yes, everything's going super secular now. 'Cause
Yeah.
the way of the world.
There's this whole anti-Islam rhetoric, and of course that's a big problem, especially with the immigration going on, you know, even the US and
Yeah, I see. Like, there's some crazy free speech stuff going on in the UK where, like, you can't even
UK.
criticize Islam, but you can talk all the smack about Christianity you want. That's pretty weird.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. Sure, look at the Olympics. What they did at the Olympics there, they made a mockery of the Last Supper. You know, the symbology's there. It's obvious, and it's sad.
Well, I mean, the way I look at it, if you just even throw out all the like logic and everything out the window, it's like practically everyone's gonna need a master. And when I look at my options for like who could be my master, it's like what's better than Jesus? Like he's like
Yeah.
the best example of a human being. I can't think of this
Yeah.
the stuff he says like in the Sermon on the Mount. I mean, that's just he's just spitting fire, you know.
Yeah. Exactly. Just pure truth. You know.
I don't know how you deny that. And then when you look at all like any, you know, the idiom "never meet your heroes," because all humans are so like they all have skeletons in their closets. All of us are sinners. All so it's like, do you want to make another human being your master, or do you want your master to be God? Because at the end of the day, you're going to have to serve a human authority, or you're going to serve an authority like a transcendent authority in heaven.
Yeah. You know, and I would say it's true. Even looking, you know, at societies around the world. You look at societies that follow Christian ethics and natures, they flourish. And you know, you have to say that certain societies are better than others. You have to, if you're going to say a society is good, then you have to discriminate and say others are worse, or some are bad. If you're making the claim that a society is good, and all Christian societies, fundamentally the West, you know, through our culture, we have created good societies, and societies that other people, you know, people from around the world then want to come to our societies that we've created. So all the evidence points towards, well, the way I turned to thinking, you know, to Christianity, to Catholicism, was that at first it was through these arguments that, you know, atheism is irrational. Actually thinking about these things, that, you know, it actually does defy the laws of logic through the laws of contingency. You know, what we're talking about. So in that case, I said, well, if there is a creator, where does the evidence lie? I'm going to have to look at this. You know, Occam's razor, make the least assumptions, is usually true. The biggest and most successful
I don't think
religion.
I don't think Occam's razor isn't really like the best way to get to truth. It's usually just to like solve a problem if you don't have time to think about something, kind of.
Yeah, well, that's the way I was sort of doing it. Well, not that I don't have time, but, you know,
Yeah.
you can only go.
Well,
You
a
can
lot of
only
people.
go. You
Yeah.
can only
Well,
have
you
so
know what
much
it is?
study.
It's like if you want something to be true, you can like find you can rationalize anything. There's a difference between having a rationale and like rationalizing, right? Because you can come up with reasons and excuses to justify any like thought or action. So
No, but well, I would say if you believe in objective truths,
yeah,
that using, you know, rationalizing has to follow the laws of logic and reason that are objective.
well, yeah, of course, but like most people are like, I don't know, they give themselves a lot of grace. Like if anyone they disagree with, like they don't give charity and they hold their feet to the fire when it comes to logic. But then in their own position, they give themselves grace. So they like,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is they kind of like, we're more critical about, the Bible says this too, obviously, we're more critical of others than ourselves. But we need to like reverse that as Christians, and we need to be super critical of ourselves and show more grace to others because
Yeah, and you know, that's the way that our
it
society.
makes you a better person, you know.
Yeah, you know, like that's the way our societies are fundamentally set up. You know, you look at the way the rhetoric that's been thrown around now. For example, I know this is a touchy subject because I tend to agree with these people most of the time, although it's unchristian-like. But see, for example, PDF files and all these hunters that are going after them, and the vigilantes that are setting up stings to try to catch these people. And, you know, you're guilty by the crowd rather than by, you know, you don't get a fair trial, essentially. And a fair trial is fundamentally, it follows the Christian
Well,
morality.
yeah.
Because you know, you have to be proven guilty through logic and rationale firstly.
I don't know, but look, in America, there's a student who unalived another student. It's famous with a. I don't even know if we can talk about these words.
Yeah, I know.
And it was like people witnessed it. The guy admitted it. So it's like, do we need a trial? You know, like he's probably gonna plead not guilty to try to get a plea deal or something. But like, sometimes I don't know. I mean, there's a difference between like public opinion and a fair trial. Like we're allowed to have an opinion in the public of if people are guilty or not. But obviously, they should deserve their day in court and get a fair.
Of course.
Same
Well,
time.
yeah, if all the evidence is there, and
It's
most
kinda
of
like
them,
a different. There's a difference.
yeah.
Between
What I just mean is that, you know, for example, I can see the logic in just unaliving someone like that, and I can see the emotional reasoning for people to justify that as well. But again, that's not, you know, that's not Christian-like, because of the fact that we are all sinners, and we take that into account in our justice systems in the West. Whereas in other parts of the country, you know, or of the world, I should say, sorry.
You're saying like vigilante justice is wrong, and that we need to like let this.
No, that's not what I mean. Sorry, I just mean that our justice system fundamentally is Judeo-Christian ethics, and people don't even realize that. They just assume that, of course, we shouldn't just hang a PDF file. They should go to jail. They should have a chance for
I see
rehabilitation.
what you're saying, like how the Bible talks about like two witnesses and
Yeah, not even just that, just the actual ethic of
the principles behind the law.
the principle of forgiveness, you know, essentially. Because forgiveness is it's a mind-blowing Christian concept.
Jesus said the principles behind the law are justice, faith, and mercy, right? So
Mercy, exactly. That we show mercy because we are all sinners. And we as Christians understand that. Whereas if you lose God, and you say you don't believe, even though you act as if He does in most cases, then you know you're irrational, you're illogical, and then it's so dangerous that way of thinking, because then anyone, you know, you are your own God then at that stage. You're the moral arbiter.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna get.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump out. Thanks for letting me up anyway, bro. Good convo.
Sure, man. Thanks for talking.
Cheers.
Cheers. Have a good one. Yeah, I'm gonna get some dinner here. I think I'm getting hungry, peckish. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.